So this one's going to be a little bit different. Not much has happened on Frankenstein for the last few months. We've had quite a few curveballs, which has just put Frankenstein's build way in the back seat. But we're sort of getting back over that now, and things are settling down. However, I will be going away for work for another few months. So again, not much progress will happen. So for the want of actually producing something and uploading something, I went out to visit my mate Paddy, who built the Sopwith Pup replica, Rosie. He is knee deep in building a Pietenpol Aircamper. He's a timber guy. I'm a sheet metal guy. He does timber, and it's gorgeous. I love going out there to visit. So I figured we may as well go around and have a look at what he's up to. The Aircamper had quite a bit of influence in the design for Frankenstein. I love the simplicity of the design, how they use local source materials, high wing and open cockpit. They all had special influence on how Frankenstein came about. So I hope you enjoy this one. For those who aren't quite sure what a Pietenpol Aircamper is or what it looks like, the original, I think, was a 1930s design, and one of the original home-built aircraft for the masses. The idea being you could buy a set of plans for a couple of bucks and go to your local hardware store and get all of the materials you needed to build yourself an aeroplane. I'll put a picture up of what one looks like when it's completed. So welcome to the Sopwith Aviation factory. This is where Paddy built his Sopwith Pup, but now it's the Aircamper factory. But it all happens in here. This is where we do all of the thinking and drawing, so obviously. Lots of thinking.
Well, good morning. My name's Paddy Martin, and yeah, this is where the thinking, as Don was saying, happens. This is where the pup was thought about, and the hangar where the pup was built.
So now you've moved on to greater things.
Yes, the Pietenpol Aircamper. A different kettle of fish in some respects, but built along the same, using wooden techniques. And here in Australia we use, or I use, hoop pine, which is readily available and comparatively cheap.
Yeah, spruce is pretty hard to get around here, really.
Well, yes, we don't have spruce trees, but we do have hoop pine. Now, hoop pine is about 15% heavier than spruce, but on the other hand, it's 15% stronger.
Yes.
And the plywood, the hoop ply, is absolutely of very, very high quality. Better than I've seen birch or any of those. It's just a beautiful medium to work with. Here's the fin and rudder of the Pietenpol, and I've just used 2mm hoop pine for the cap strips. I always use epoxy.
Yeah.
The stuff I use, once again, it's actually a marine epoxy called Techniglue. Built a yacht many years ago.
Yeah.
That yacht actually went off into the Pacific and came back and didn't fall apart. And I presume that's
It's a good test for an aeroplane, isn't it?
Well, I think it works. It's very good. It's one part of that to two parts of that. And it's beautiful to use, very strong.
Yep.
And as with all of these wooden aeroplanes, you always needed a record of all your glue joints. Now these are the glue joints from the Sopwith Pup.
Ah, yeah, so every time you did a mix, you
Yeah.
made a test piece as well.
And then you write on what was done.
Yep.
And this was done in 2014, these ones. And I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
joint.
Yep.
So that's what I use, and it's worked pretty good. And then some other techniques for strength, here you go. Once again, 2 millimeter. In fact, this is only 1.5 millimeter joint. Now that was typical of the pup's fuselage.
Yep.
Only, of course, the pup, these were all routed out as well for
Yes.
lightness.
Yeah.
But I'd defy you to break that. It's so strong.
Yeah, it'd probably fail through
would,
here
would.
rather than the joint itself.
Every time.
Yeah.
People do that.
And you use mild steel as well for
Always.
all your metal parts instead of chrome moly?
I always use mild steel for a couple of good reasons. Once again, mild steel is cheap.
Yes.
I
And again,
can
it's
go-
available.
I can just go to what's his name, Metals R Us, buy some mild steel, and that's the other thing I use is just an ordinary stick welder.
Yep.
I can use that on mild steel. I use 1.5 millimeter rods, and I cut them in half because otherwise there's too big a voltage drop.
Ah,
on a long
yes.
rod.
Yeah.
At such a thin.
Yes.
So I cut them in half. That way I've got 2 rods. you
Yeah,
see,
yes.
for the and it does quite a decent little weld there. This is just something I was making up, but you can
Yep.
see it's only stick, but yeah, it does
Yep.
the job.
Yep.
Another thing, a lot of people use AN nuts and bolts, and I take my hat off. It's very good stuff,
Yes.
very top quality. All of those things are very good. Again, expense. So I use metric. As you know, I notice I speak metric a lot. But that's a high tensile metric bolt.
Yep.
Beautifully made.
Yep.
Every bit as strong as a AN
Yes.
nut and bolt.
Yes.
Readily available.
Readily available. That is the key around here, isn't it? Like that, and that's the whole point of building the way you built the pup and the way you're building the air camper. It's to the original drawings, which was what they had available to them back then.
Absolutely. Actually,
Yeah.
in the pup, they call for metric nuts and bolts.
Yeah,
AN
yeah.
hadn't been invented
I remember
yet.
looking at the drawings with you. Yeah.
Yes. Listen, these aeroplanes, it's got to be fun to build
Yes.
and then be reasonably cheap to build. As old Bernard Pietenpol, the idea was that you could build an aeroplane that you could build from the local hardware store.
Exactly right.
And if you've
yeah.
got to start importing spruce and those sorts of timbers, and if you've got to start getting AN nuts and bolts, it's going to blow out massively.
Yes.
So that's where we are with that.
Yes. So this is the fuselage that you're. Boy, you've come a long way since I've last seen it.
Yeah, it's just stuck together. I did a weight and balance on it a week or so ago, and actually I was quite happy with the as it is there with the wheels, the center section, the whole caboodle. I think it came to 87 kilos.
Yeah. Wow.
So
That's awesome.
It's not too bad.
Yep. And same technique that you've done with the pup was the fuselage sides.
Yes.
You've boxed in with.
Yes, the pup actually underneath the fabric, it's actually got thin pieces of timber
Yeah, that
to
was
hold
to.
the fabric off them.
Yes.
So, and if you're looking at the pup, you would never know
Yeah.
that's actually a semi-monocoque
Yes.
construction.
Yeah, but it made life a lot easier for you to make it and easier as well, rather than having the tension wires and all that.
And
sort of stuff.
lighter.
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
all those turnbuckles in there, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
they're hundreds.
Everywhere, yeah.
So it worked out very strong.
Yes.
On top of that, there's not constant rigging and re-rigging.
Yep.
It doesn't happen. And as you know, Don, we had that bit of low-level aerobatics in the pup, which I remember with great
Yes,
detail.
we all try and,
And
that's
it
something I'd
proved to
rather
be-
not do again.
Yeah, it proved to be immensely strong.
True.
You
Absolutely.
know, the only thing that got broken was the port wing.
Yes. Yep.
The port wing, the propeller, and a few other things.
And
Yeah.
there's a tail as
But
well.
yeah,
that
the
proves its
structure
point.
inside is very similar to the pup. Yeah, I bought a packet of these, and there were 2 of these in the packet.
Yep.
So good reason to
That
build
was
another
that was
airplane.
handy.
So-
Yeah. Well, yeah. All these leftover bits, you got to do something with them, don't you?
Anyway, and that's exactly like the
And you
pup.
built this quite solid as well,
yeah,
like
as
on
you
the
can
pup,
see.
so you can sit on that, so you can get back into the cockpit.
Well, that's 2 layers of 1.5mm ply, and yeah, you can stand on that. It's very
Yep.
strong.
Yep.
And the pup, it's such a pleasure to be able to sit there.
It helps a lot, doesn't it?
And
yeah.
then climb in. You know?
Yeah. Yep. So,
And the old stick and sign, that's work in progress, but as you can see, it's. And then being 2 seats, when you wiggle this one, amazingly, that one wiggles too.
that does help, doesn't it?
And there's the throttle.
I love the simplicity of these designs. I really do.
Keep it simple.
That is the key, isn't it?
It's.
Simple is fun.
And I've gone to wooden struts, avoiding all that expensive, sure, it's a bit more work. And these are 2 pieces laminated. And then in the middle here, in between there's 2 layers of 3mm plywood. So that the bolts are actually going through 2 layers of plywood and the timber of the strut.
Yep.
And I did the same trick with the pup.
And then as it sits, you'll see that this tang will go down into.
It goes in
Yeah.
through the that goes right in down to about down here,
Yeah.
and then so it's got plywood, then it's got that wood,
Yep.
and it's all bolted together.
Yep.
With probably not big washers. It'll probably have plates.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And you've made a little on your center section. You've made a gap there, so makes life a bit easier. You can look through there, and then you can stick whoever's trying to climb into the front. There's always a
put their head
challenge
up.
with the air camper, especially because they've modified it over the years with a door and all sorts of stuff. But with the hole through there, you can sort of stick your head up there while you're getting the bottom end sorted.
Yes.
Hopefully that works. But Paddy, you won't really care because you're the one sitting in the back seat.
Oh yes.
So,
I don't plan to go.
so no, it does not matter for you.
No, not even thinking about it. The undercut, it's a bit of a compromise. I tried to build a Piper Cub style undercarriage, spent months on it, and at the end gave it up. It was just far too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't going to work. So that's very similar to the pup again,
Yeah.
but only this is all timber. The pup's actually steel.
Yes, because the pup had the steel centerpieces with the timber fairings, whereas this is
Yes.
solid timber.
That's solid timber.
Yeah.
Once again, it's laminated.
Yep. Sort of like your cabane struts there.
Yeah,
Yep.
same trick.
Same principle.
And it's going to have just simple bungee cords holding for the.
This is very similar to what you have in the pup too, isn't it? Have the bungee in here, isn't it? And
it
here,
goes
sorry,
right.
yeah, and it goes
both
up.
ways.
Yeah.
Whereas that's just out there.
Yeah.
Of course, that's rope. But,
Yes, yeah, but that's the intention there,
that's
isn't
where
it?
it'll be.
Firewall forward. So you're originally you're building this for a Continental engine.
Yep, that
So-
was the plan. And then I thought the Model A engine would be unobtainium. But then a friend put me in touch with a chap lives just in the next suburb from here who had a Model A engine. So I picked it up. But it's still, it needs work to turn it into an aeroplane engine. But there you go, Ford Model A engine. And this one I think is 96 years old. At first I was quite worried about the weight because as you can see that's a hunk of cast iron.
That's cast steel too, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
not aluminium block or anything like that.
No. If memory serves, we weighed it not long ago. It's about 90 kilos as it sits there.
90 kilos.
Yeah, it's still got to have things.
And then you got radiator and
All
bits
of
and
that.
pieces all on top of that, hey?
Yeah, back, turned it over, it's sweet. It's been run,
And they're
And it just-
about 40 horsepower?
40 horsepower.
Yep. They're Clydesdale horses though.
Yes, well, you see, I did all that arithmetic, and the O200's 100 horsepower. This is only 40 horsepower.
Yep.
And then I turned it into torque. That wasn't working. Then I took a Newton, bloody whatever, and it all looked quite, you know, not going to be too good. And then I started looking at the propellers.
Yes.
That this whole thing is capable of swinging.
Yes.
And also it generates its horsepower at around 1,800 revs.
Yes.
And it'll swing a 76, now this is what I've read, a 76 to a 78 inch prop at 48 inch pitch. Now if it can do that,
Yes.
it's going to pull this little
Absolutely.
fella along
Yeah.
comfortably.
Absolutely.
And it's been done hundreds of, I mean, in America they've got hundreds of
Yeah,
these
and
things
this was the original
It was
engine.
designed around this.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd have to modify the Ford, bring the firewall back
I was thinking,
to do that, or
well, I've done the arithmetic again. I've made a program I use for
yeah.
your Frankenstein
Yeah.
and so on. I've got the same sort of one for this. And remember that with the Continental, the Continental will be sitting out here
True that. Yeah.
because of all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas that will be right up there.
Yes.
So in actual fact, it's not that
It's
daunting
pretty close.
after all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking I was going to have to move this firewall back, but I don't think I'm going to need to.
Mm.
And then, of course, I'm not getting any lighter, so but ballast there.
Easter and Christmas are a good thing, yes, and a lot of planning and design helps that as well. So,
Yeah.
so covering for the aircraft, you're not going to cover that?
No, all this, that, and that will remain timber, and it will be fabric from there. It gets a stringer along there.
Yeah.
That will be fabric. Of course, the wings will be fabric, and the tail, but as much wood as I can possibly get.
Try to expose as much, yeah. And you're going to use timber for wing struts, you're saying?
Yes, same technique as this.
Yep.
And I've done the numbers on that, and you'd be surprised just because the LAME that sort of supervises my building, when I muted this wooden undercart, he was doing hand flips and not strong enough. And actually, I did the arithmetic around that.
Yes.
Loop pine, and it's stronger than steel.
It's stronger than steel. Wow.
Well,
I
those
should-
dimensions
I
compared
should-
with a little steel
Yeah.
thing like that.
I should do that on Frankenstein.
It's very, very strong.
Yeah.
And of course, with lamination, you can get it so you got the grain this way and the grain that way.
Yeah.
And they work for each other.
Yep. Would weight-wise, this
Lighter.
timber is lighter than a steel. If you went to make that out of steel, that'd be
Would be
heavier.
Oh, yes. And there's the day. You're there, right on the right.
This one here, yeah, that
Yeah,
was a
that
test
was the
flight.
day.
That was, yeah. And that's you flying beavers. You're.
Yeah, back. That's at Chance Bay in the Whitsunday.
Oh, look at you, flat out like a lizard drinking too. Look at
That's
you.
it. Bloody- I
Between
think-
passengers, we'll call that.
Yeah, I dropped them off at the beach, and I was reading a book on yachting at that
Oh,
time.
right,
I was
yes.
building my yacht.
So when you made the ailerons, you actually had the trailing edge as one piece, and then you cut that at the end.
That's right.
So that gave you your nice straight edge there.
I always build the ailerons and the wings at the same time.
At the same time, yeah, yeah. So then you don't have any misalignment issues that way.
No.
And that's what we were talking about before. So
Yeah.
so through there. So it's one rib all the way along effectively.
And well,
And then-
yeah.
And
And
then
the
you
cap
trim
strip
that out.
goes through. Yeah.
Yep. And then you trim that out later on. So that just nails your alignments straight away. It's a handy little trick, that one. What's that, Paddy?
Yeah, another one of my daft ideas. Going to make a replicator so that I can make a propeller for the Pietenpol.
So you've decided to not only build the aeroplane, but make your own propeller as well.
Well, at this if I can get this thing to work properly.